Hey guys, it's Will. So, what a great week we had this last week with so much green in the market that it was well overdue. And we saw some surges in the semiconductor market over in quantum computing as those companies continue to innovate. And we also saw the data center market have quite the run as AI continues to grow. Without getting too caught up in some technological jargon around the NVQ links of integrating the quantum into the semiconductors or anything like that, the bottom line is AI is growing. Stocks and companies are seeing that growth as a result. Let's jump into it. How's everyone doing here? And how was your day going as we jump in? There's a few things I want to go over. Number one, we could hop right into APLD stock as this has been a top company for us to watch this week. And what are you guys watching this week? Go ahead and comment your ticker symbols down below and we'll jump right into it. I see Carl is here. Hey, Carl, what's going on? Redwire, RDW, TSSI, Dean is here. Shaw's is here. What's going on? Declan is here, along with Peter and Luis and Gary and BT. What's going on? Gary, I love it. Okay. Your account is accounting. All right. So first things first, let's take a look at this growth here in APLD. We've seen this very consistent uptrend since $3 a share. Not a surprise that we've seen them surge into that $40 range because ultimately we were looking at this company when they had signed multiple over $10 billion in deals and their market cap was just around $3 billion in market cap. It made sense that they surged. And so we've seen them get up to that $40 price point. They sold back down to 22 and then stabilized holding this overall uptrend. But there's three things we look at when we're analyzing a stock. Number one is going to be the market. We've seen the markets do quite well when it comes to the data center markets. More spending from big tech. So Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Tesla, Apple investing more into the AI market. So that's good. You see more spending, but you also see a lot more usage. Even us, we see APLD is up about 4% tonight, getting ready for tomorrow. We could pull it up here, APLD stock, and we've been using it over on Prophecy with AI analysis to get the insights using either Grok or OpenAI, Claude, ChatGPT, the Gemini from Google, and it's been very helpful. And I see what's going on. Declan, Jzev, looking at Bitfarms. Let's jump in. So nearest support level on APLDs right here around $21. It's looking to jump up around 26. You can see that it did jump above that $26 price point. There was a resistance level we were watching closely and it broke out further, which is excellent. We are looking for that and we see that continuation. Next target, or at least next resistance, is going to be around $30 a share to watch into tomorrow morning. See if it gets that resistance, how it reacts. And when it comes to the breakdown here, very simply put, I'm going to be watching this $28, $27 range tomorrow morning. We'll see if it holds above that key level. According to the AI, when we're looking at the next day or the next week, you could see that support level around 27.50, but really looking for the next day into that $29 range is what it was projecting, and we've already seen that here, and into the $31 range over the next few months and into 2026 up to that $38 price point. Pretty big. Okay, so as we see it growing, we see a lot of growth in APLD. I'm going to watch these levels here tomorrow morning. If you are an investor, you might have seen APLD get some deals over the last few months. When those deals happened, it didn't mean it was surging. In fact, a lot of times they would get like a multi-billion-dollar deal and then their stock would, continue to sell down, kind of similar to AMD back earlier this year. They were crushing earnings and they were just selling down even though they were having great earnings. And that's just a result of a few things. Number one, when you have an instance where a company has good contracts for the future, but their current financials aren't adding up. People might see the news, but ultimately when you look at the balance sheets and the income statements where they're at right now, they just don't indicate that the company should be worth what they're worth. Now, then you had some quarters go by where they basically surged in their assets 155%, and then they increased as well on their income there. Revenues up 84% on the last quarter. So, that's why we're watching there. Next stock. So again, we'll be watching there tomorrow morning at market open. We'll see how that reacts around that $28 level. But ultimately, we hold it long term, and we're looking for that recovery back up into that $35 to $40 range. Let's see what else we got here. So I love it. JZev lecture says SMX. Luis, thanks for being here. Let's get into RDW. That's what Dean is saying. RDW. So Redwire. We're going to open up our space tech watch list. You can see all the space tech stocks, including LUNR. That one was up 40% last week. You can see Redwire. So Redwire here is at $9 a share. They just had a nice surge. And it was just about a month ago when we saw them at this $4.87 price point. All right. And then they basically pulled down from about $8.20 in early December. Early December, they were starting to spike. They then corrected. We saw them sell back down to this support level, which we were looking at a bounce there around $6 a share. And Redwire continued. A couple reasons why Redwire has done so well. They're a space tech company, and they are signing some big deals. When I went to a conference recently and I got to meet Redwire, they had just signed this deal for $2.6 billion, where they were essentially holding on to one of 14 prime contractors, the spots of one of 14 prime contractors for that deal. So 2.6 billion, but then you looked at their market cap, and their market cap was only a balance sheet. The balance sheet was at 1.5 billion, but their actual market cap is only at 1.32 billion. So what does that mean? It means that they have more assets on their balance sheet than their current market cap. And we've seen that since literally $4.50 a share here, or $4 a share, excuse me. And that's why we've been watching them for the recovery. And that's why we get that, we see a 28% increase here. Again, I'm anticipating that Redwire will actually make this type of run up into this $15 range to $20 range, which would be over 100% to 200% increase on the stock. So maybe it's, taking some dips. It's not always pretty. In fact, it could sell back down, of course. But in the medium term, that's why we watch Redwire, and that's why we have multiple positions this year that are over 100% in gain. It's because of these types of identities that you find where, obviously, if an institution is paying attention, which I don't know what they're doing, but if you see a company, and maybe they need to go to the actual space conference or something. I don't like going to space conferences, or I don't like going to conferences. It's not something that I really like doing. I don't wake up in the morning and say, what conference am I going to go to? But I do know that when we go to conferences, we get to meet people, we get to see what they're doing, we get to know what the company's up to, where they're planning to go. We can hear from them on things that they don't report in their earnings calls that ultimately give us an advantage for, the investing side of things. So we do that. But ultimately, even if you didn't go to the conference, you could still see that their balance sheet of 1.5 billion is up 400% and greater than their current market cap. One of the number one things that Benjamin Graham, the founder or the mentor of Warren Buffett, says is that he looks for companies that have a greater market cap, a smaller market cap than that of their balance sheet and their assets. That's what we've seen with Redwire. So, I think it's going to be one of those companies we're going to see in this $10 to $20 range, and it's potential 100% to 200% gain. Now, there's a lot of confidence out there on YouTube, out on TikTok, or whatever people watch. I don't really see I don't have TikTok. I don't really watch the, Instagram or what people are talking about there as much, although we do have some content out there. But I will say that most of the time it's something like this company is doing something crazy, and you look at the product and it looks really exciting. But ultimately you have to look at the financials. There's so many stocks that people are saying, you gotta, like, you can't afford to miss this. And then you go look at it, and ultimately, like, the integrity of the financials don't match the integrity of what you would want in a good trade or investment. Even if you're short-term trading, even if you're going to trade for the day, you still want to make sure that you're investing in something that's valuable. Otherwise, you're going to get caught, and you're going to be in a position long-term that you otherwise wouldn't want to hold. So it doesn't make sense to invest in something that doesn't have integrity if you want integrity in your portfolio, right? Can we all agree that makes sense? Like, Redwire is one of those stocks that, while I'm not entirely sure about all their internal processes, from a financial standpoint, they have so much integrity around their total assets and their revenue. I mean, gosh, they did $100 million in revenue. Like Rocket Lab, let's pull up Rocket Lab. Rocket Lab, yeah, last quarter they did 155 million in revenue. So just 50 million less than Rocket Lab is what Redwire did this last quarter. And meanwhile, Rocket Lab's holding at $37 billion market cap, while Redwire's holding at just 1.3 billion. Wow, 1.3 billion. Yeah, that's why Redwire's on the list. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, there's a lot of volatility in the short term, but we love to trade the market open dips a lot of times. That's what we'll be watching at market open. And again, if you guys ever want to tune on in at market open, second link in the description below to join on in with our market live sessions. So when it comes to the next stock, Dean, you get one stock per person. I'll check it out though. Let's see. I'm just kidding, man. When it comes to TSSI, that's what Dean just brought up, TSSI. We do have some positions in TSSI, and it's been stretched out. It's down to the $6.50 price point. Here's the financials on TSSI. Let's really jump in. Let's just start brass tacks straight to the financials, and I'll tell you what they do. Currently, they're doing revenue here. You can see their annual revenue has been increasing. They were doing around 27 million a year in 2021, and they jumped up to $148 million in 2024. That was a 172% increase. And then in the last year, over the last 3 quarters, they did 100 million in March. They did 43 million in June, and another 40 million in September in those reportings. So they're already on track to more than, not fully double, but nearly double their revenue from last year. And their net income has narrowed tremendously. When you look at their balance sheet, the assets are up to 165 million. Okay. 165 million in assets with 100 million in liability. So they got 60 something million in equity, 63 million. That's pretty good. When you look at the income statement, 150 million, 200 million in revenue a year, their market cap's only at 200 million and 217 million. That indicates that they're probably going to see growth if they do continue to do what they're doing. Again, we've seen them up into those levels around that level of around $30 a share. I mean, that would be tremendous. They're at 7 currently, but we did enter a trade into early last week that we ended up holding throughout the week that it did dip down about 6% or 7% in a shorter term trade. But again, I'm anticipating a bounce here on TSSI with the data center market. Now, why is that? Well, if they do bounce, see something like this, there's actually a potential of about 100%. And let me see something. Tammy, can you hear me? Tamara? Yeah, can you hear me? Oh, I just smell something burning. Yeah. Cool. Something might be on fire. Okay. So anyway, why would we anticipate nearly 100% or 200% potential increase on TSSI? No problem. It happens.
Very usual.
Comment in the chat if you've ever burned rice before. Just
It's important to invest in a rice cooker.
Yeah, we're on the go right now. We're living in Buenos Aires until just after Christmas with the wife's family here, and then we'll have a rice cooker again. Um, so TSSI is configuring the data centers. That's why I see the revenue. That's why I see the increase. They're integrating the high performance computing infrastructure to meet the demand for AI. Big tech company wants to build AI data center. Big tech company has much money, know how to build in data center. Hire company TSSI to make data center work. So that's what they do, and they make a lot. And oh well, as a $200 million a year company or market cap company, they're doing about that much in revenue per year, and they're pretty disciplined on the balance sheet. Again, the liabilities are down, assets are up, and yeah, some people said that they've burned rice before.
Some people have. Well, it didn't burn that much, thankfully, but it was like just about to burn. So I think it survived at least.
Yeah, yeah, it's like just a little bit of that carcinogenic taste, but it's like not detrimental to your health type of thing. Yeah.
They made me feel so good.
No, I love that. Thanks for the comments, guys. So there's a really good insight as well. We'll have some targets out into tonight for tomorrow for our exciting earnings, because we do have our targets that come out along with the different companies that are reporting earnings either Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, on which companies are reporting this upcoming week. So look forward to those targets. If you're in StockMate, you get all the targets, our current price, what we're anticipating, what we see with those companies, at least in the AI tech space markets. But some good insights from some of the top people. Did you know that we have almost 3 dozen, we're approaching the 3 dozen mark of individuals that have a net worth of over $1 million in StockMate? And I love to see it. There's this good article here from Lawrence. I saw someone comment just a second ago with wanted to see more on some space tech. Rocket Lab just got awarded an $816 million prime contract to build missile defense satellite constellations for U.S. Space Force. This is the largest contract that Rocket Lab has seen, and it's over 806 million base contract. Tremendous. So yeah, it's the biggest contract we've seen in the space tech world outside of, I think, Accenture just signed a similar deal that was pretty large, but they're already on track for some growth as well. They're looking really good. That stock.
Yes, if tremendous is a normal word for them, or is it that you were getting too used to like hang out with me?
Yeah.
And if it's not relevant, don't worry.
Yeah, no. I think so. Yeah, there's people in the comment section that say the word tremendous. I think it's pretty common. Elvis, Lunar, Rolo, what do you think about SMR? Says Rolo. Yeah, SMR, I know there's a lot of billionaires that are investing in the company. So anyway, before I get into it, TSSI support level around 750 that we're watching, that I would anticipate they hold, but we'll see how market open goes. We had a lot of green, and we're going to continue to look for that to continue. When I look at most projections for TSSI, I'm going to get into that one in just a second there, Rolo. But when it comes to TSSI, you can also see here support level there around $7, $7.50 to be watching in the near term, but bullish over the next month into that $8 to $9 range for TSSI, so long as the data center market continues to bull up as it has. So going to continue to hold. Again, I entered some long-term positions and some short-term trades that we're looking to enter into this next week in the data center market. So TSSI will be one. APLD, BITF looks pretty good as well. Problem with BITF, they have had a ton of surges, large surges, a lot of volatility, but it looks like they're trying to find support around 220, so that's one to watch. AMD was doing well. They're still trading high on the PE ratio as they are pretty high up there, but they're seeing revenue justify their PE, so they'll most likely they're going to continue to stabilize around that $200 price point. I think that's going to happen here. And then you got the other companies like CoreWeave make a nice recovery that they're going to continue most likely to hold if they continue to see the great earnings that we got in the AI markets over the last few weeks. So when it comes to this company, from Australia, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you guys. Close your position on Wolf stock. Got it. When it comes to the SMR, we're going to get over real quick. Nuclear watch list. Nuclear technology has the ability to optimize the amount of energy that it takes to run a lot of these data centers or AI. And it's definitely a focus. I think Mark Zuckerberg is investing more into the nuclear space. You do see more companies going that direction. SMR, or is this NuScale, if I'm not mistaken? Let me not misquote so I don't start talking about the wrong company. Is it NuScale? Yes, it is. So this company, SMR, NuScale Power, focused on having these power plants essentially to optimize the obviously energy production in the US for companies that are having a large amount of need for that power. One of their recent agreements was a $25 billion agreement. And they've had some interesting growth because while their stock has been, here we are, while their stock has seen a lot of market cap growth, the actual earnings have not indicated that. Their net income is big negative, about over $250 million negative. And frankly, their balance sheet looks okay. They're at 800 million in total assets. Total equity holds around 400 million. And ultimately, 800 million in assets, big time negative net income, that if they had a few quarters like that without increasing their assets, they could go broke in 2 quarters. The market cap's at 4.8 billion. You know, now you're looking, if they don't raise money fast enough, they might end up selling their own stock so they can get some cash in order to fund their business dealings. If they're going to be blowing through $270 million a quarter, yeah, it's just crazy. So I remember I was watching the Robinhood reveal on their new technologies they're rolling out. Something, I think it was like prediction market, which is kind of a little bit controversial around if it's betting or what have you. And they were talking about, he pulled up NuScale as the company to watch. But again, you see a lot of manipulation. Look at that. They're really selling off here. Let's pull it up in Prophecy app and see what's up with this company and why they're selling off. NuScale Power Corporation, insiders. You got Vanguard bought, but insiders still make a big deal here. Let's see how the insiders look for the nuclear company. Yeah, there you go. So you got a lot more sales on the insiders, about 116 sells to 51 buys, which is pretty aggressive in the selling of the insiders. And while their projections look okay, they are actually anticipated to sell off according to Prophecy. Why is that? Why are they, anticipating that into the next day and so? And how does it look maybe on some other models? Let's pull it up on OpenAI. Why they're negative? I think long term they probably look good. We see them pull back down to this support level, this range around $17 a share. But ultimately, you look at them and it's like they got a $25 billion deal. That's amazing. It's a risk though. Let's see if it shows up on the balance sheet or on the revenue. And if it does, the stock could be jumped back to $30 to $40, and then people are really happy. It's just now you're looking at a deal that's like, hopefully it shows up on the revenue sheet, which is very common in the AI market. Like that happens quite often. So 120% increase if they get back to those levels they were in January. Nevertheless, we look at Prophecy app, see how it's looking. Yeah, anticipating a little bit of a correction over the next week, about 4% down to that $15 level, but bullish over the next year, anticipating that they surge about up to $20 a share, as they are a nuclear company that could provide a lot of growth for the AI market if they deploy their power plants. So they're in Oregon and they employ 330 employees, and they're looking to have more facilities out related to nuclear. They got some big plans for that. So that's what it looks like now. All right. What else do we got? LUNR. Okay, so LUNR stock went up about 40%. We covered that one. LUNR, we covered that one on Friday, and we're anticipating a surge on LUNR up into this $15 price point. We did get that surge. In fact, it continued this overall trend. You can see that uptrend continued up into that $15 price point at 70% gain for LUNR. What a surge. It was just around $6 a share. We really liked that one. Pulled up to about $15 a share, and now we're seeing it knock on the door of $15 to $16 a share. Nearest support is $14 a share. Next bullish target for LUNR, which I do believe it could reach at some point. I don't know that it'll be all in one swoop, but that I think long term, and it's why we hold LUNR, we've been trading it, is getting up to that $20 price point there. So $20 price point would be bullish. Resistance though, right now, you could see even something like this where it pulls down as low as $10 a share. You know, you can't just look at the risk to reward as that it's going to use that previous resistance as a support. That's a very bullish outlook. What could make sense, you know, looking at the RSI overbought, MACD overbought, and just looking at the pattern it's had over the last few months. Oftentimes, while it's, you know, had these surges, it oftentimes gets rejected around this level and then gradually sells back down into that $10 range. So, you know, if you're wanting to play that breakout to the potential $20 a share, it only happened once this last year. So just have some caution, as $20 a share would be great, but what might be more likely here would be that pullback. I don't know that it's more likely because it's really getting a lot of momentum this time. They just signed some big deals, and I've actually been saying they should hit that $20 price point for a long time. So this could be the time when they do break out of that $15 level and really continue up to 20, which would be a great 35% gain on the Schwab portfolio where we hold it long term. But again, on the shorter term, you know, maybe you do see that continuation of the pattern kind of sell back down as it has into that $10 price point there for the LUNR stock. But again, they're providing some good service to land spatial aircrafts onto the moon right now. So pretty cool stuff for LUNR, and they actually had really good financials. They've been increasing their financials. They've been looking good. So that's why we've been covering them over the last few months. So we got some good ticker symbols we got to check out here. We got APLD. We jumped in. A little bit of Bitfarms. RCAT. RCAT is an interesting one. Over in the drone tech market, they were up 8% right now. I do have some positions in RCAT, but it's been volatile. I expect that. We're anticipating they may make that move. They made that move, then sold back down, all the way down into $6 a share. And now they're holding the $6 level, trying to continue back up. The company is in drone tech, which is excellent, but I would be very long-term on this company. And if you trade anything short-term, you'd want to have very good risk management. Same thing, you know, when we're using Prophecy, right? We use the AI. Just because we have a projection, just because we have, you know, all the AI models maybe at once, you know, giving us a projection, and we can kind of see, you know, the quantum analysis we run through and get, you know, some tunneling going on there with the IonQ, and we get these really good projections and things look really good, right? We might have really good projections, but at the same time, you got to look at the actual plan, especially when companies are in the market with the drone tech, because the drone tech, you know, it's very promising, But then something like the government shutdown absolutely wipes it out. Like you can just see government shutdown hits, then October through, all the way to December, RCAT just aggressively sold down. And that's what you saw with a lot of companies that are in the government space, no doubt about it. But I mean, they got beat down pretty hard. Now they're down to that 200-day moving average. Maybe they continue back up into that $12 range. It's an 80% gain. But at the same time, you look at their financials, I was a little bit shocked. They're doing public, ads on TV that I've seen for RCAT. But they all, and I literally never watched TV. I was like visiting some family, and we were watching the Los Angeles Chargers that I grew up watching the San Diego Chargers. My dad was always a big fan, and I also played American football, and I love that. Um, and we were watching the game, and then they had an RCAT, Red Cat drone system, like ad on TV. It was like the first ad was, the popsicle commercial for like the popsicles, and then it was like RCAT, and then the next one was like for like Pampers or something. And you're like, what the heck? Like it was just so random. And the balance sheet, though, this is what's interesting. Their balance sheet jumped to 286. Liabilities stay low. That looks good. Assets, short-term cash up 2,500%. Okay, good. But income, 9 million a quarter, pretty low. Negative net income, not so hot. Then you look at the market cap. They're under $1 billion still. It would make sense that they are around that 400 to $600 million market cap. And that's kind of what I've said. So even as a long-term investor that I'm in the company, and I've loved it, I've seen them go up to $16, and that's great. And maybe if we see a spike, we exit some of the positions and gain and capitalize on some of the gains. If it goes up to that $12 price point, that's great. But even as a long-term investor in RCAT, I could tell you, like, it potentially could be down around this $4 to $5 range. Just watch out, especially from the valuation standpoint. That's how it looks. However, given that, there are also some tailwinds. You see the big, beautiful bill. You might see more contracts. We saw an Momentum, almost a $1 trillion contract. And then shortly after yesterday or whatever, we saw that $800 million contract with Rocket Lab. These are big defense spends that are happening. And so for that reason, you could see our cat get some tailwinds. On top of that, when we're looking at the robotics industry and some of these stocks over here into the quantum market, the wave of AI is still in that first to second stage. We're in that software stage. When we get into the second stage, we're going to see more of the robotics play a role in a greater capacity, and the drone tech will have its time. And then when we get into, and this is how I view it, the full scale of AI that it's being used in its greatest capacity, we're most likely going to see full integration of quantum computing. Now, a lot of the quantum stocks have been at a level where they pulled back recently to their 200-day moving average. Rigetti pulled back here to about $20 a share and then bounced a little bit. You see IonQ, the trapped ion company that is one of the top three there, they pulled back to that 200-day moving average around $45 a share, and they bounced a little bit. Same thing with D-Wave. You see QBTS, while they've integrated more in the cloud and they potentially have a deal with Anduril, which is another military, they got the defense contracts going, the recurring contracts with NASA, that QBTS has seen some growth. Now, in these instances, you also have some tailwinds for the quantum market, despite revenues lagging. Like, there's no doubt about it, revenues are lagging. However, when you look at the investment from big tech into the potential of quantum, you see more growth potential. And I could tell you, we're integrating quantum into Prophecy right now for using our analysis. In fact, if I am on NewScale here, I can click in and get some quantum analysis from Rigetti. Now, why do I tell you that? It's because when we're integrating quantum, we're seeing what it can do. And we're taking all of the AI analysis, and we're saying, what can it do when you pair AI with quantum? Now, the issue is that it's taken a tremendous amount of effort for our team, like Ryan, my co-founder and I, to integrate quantum. It's been very difficult. It was like we had to go through this reserve that costs a lot of money. It's like $15,000 per hour or something like that, or $5,000, somewhere around there. It just depends on what time of day or what the CEO had for breakfast. I'm not sure, but it was mad. And then we finally get the integration. Look at this: 4 hours confidence for this stock is the most confidence. Pull up the 4 hours. That's how it looks. And I love to use it. I'm using quantum right now, and there's quantum technologies that are being used right now. And this is what people don't realize. While the revenues have been still lagging, if you pull up what Nvidia has been doing, how much has the tune changed since last year? I think it was January of last year. We're looking at these stocks. We see QBTS. I remember it was up here around $11 a share. We started covering most of these around $1, and it crashed all the way down, over 50%, down to $3 a share. Shortly after, I got on a plane. This was right when we started YouTube, actually. I started my YouTube back here in November or October. And because I was just investing every day, I said, I want to share this with people and see what they can get value out of, because there's so many opportunities. And it just so happened that, we also were early investors in quantum around here, and it served really valuable for you. And when they crashed here, I thought, it's not quite right. It's not quite right. So like I said, don't always like to go to conferences, but we get on the plane and we go to the conference, CES, where he made the announcement, NVIDIA CEO, that it was so far away. And they were very bullish. They were saying, hey, we're doing this. We're working with these companies, commercialization. Google announces the chip. Microsoft announces the chip. IBM announces they got $1 billion in revenue from quantum. They passed the milestone. So then shortly after you see them rally and get up to $46 a share. So where are we going with this? Well, all I'm saying is that while the financials are still taking the time to count up to where they are, there's no doubt that it is one of those situations where it could be Nvidia before the markets catch on. Whether you're looking at QBTS, RGTI, or IonQ, Nvidia, for example, just announced that they are having quantum GPU, so quantum integrated into data centers with GPU, with a new technology they've integrated for the connection of QPUs, quantum processing units, with GPUs for 17 different quantum companies. Rigetti was one of the companies, okay? And IonQ was one of the companies. You can see here, Rigetti and IonQ. This is key, because what this means is that in the cloud, as we already know that these companies are in the cloud, if you go to AWS or Azure Microsoft, they're in the cloud. Look at that. Rigetti, IonQ. This is where I was saying it was like $5,000 an hour, and it says, visit this for the quantum pricing. Maybe they'll show me here. Yeah, but we went deep, and it wasn't cheap, okay? And that is the blocker that they're solving, and this technology that Nvidia just released will help with that. So frankly, long term, I continue to hold. We've had multiple triple digit percentage returns here on the quantum market. We'll continue to hold, and you guys have had some good gains on Rigetti, and in the short term as well. You just got to watch out for those shorter term corrections. You see the corrections, they happen all the time, and as you can tell, we got a strong previous resistance level around $20 a share for RGTI to watch closely, see if they hold that overall uptrend as they're down to the 200-day moving average right now. How old is that article? That's from end of October. That is when that came out. But still dynamically approachable. I mean, that's the type of thing that fuels a ton of growth into 2026. How do I recommend margin trading? I don't recommend margin trading unless you have a really great conviction and you know what you're doing. So the only time I've done margin trading was when I was investing in space tech companies in 2023. So I did some investing in Rocket Lab. I had a friend that worked at Rocket Lab, or I had a friend that worked at a company that was working with Rocket Lab, and then now he works at Rocket Lab. And I had some insider kind of, not insider information. It wasn't insider information. It was publicly available. But like I said, there's things that get publicly available that people don't pay attention to, and that's what was going on. And so, when you have that type of information, let's say you work at the company and you're like, man, and I'm not encouraging insider trading here, but if there's publicly available information that you have access to that you believe is institutional attracting value, and you're like, man, this just makes sense. Look at all the institutions would buy in. Look at the financials. They're not even, they have way more assets than liabilities. Like, never ever use margin on a company that has more liabilities than assets. That would be like suicide, because they could basically go bankrupt at any time if they have to pay back their debt. So always want to look at the liabilities to assets, those things. Use some extra decision makers. I use, for example, I use the Prophecy app that we've designed, because it does the market, the financials, the technical analysis for me, alongside me, and just validates my already existing analysis, or helps me see blind spots. And so I use AI, and then I'll use Grok, I'll use OpenAI, Claude, or Gemini all at once, either individually or all of them at once, to see a view from all of them at once and compare all the models at once. So I do that quite often. So like if you wanted to do that, simply how you would do it is you could just pull in a widget, or you can look at all of them individually, and then you just kind of like wait as the top models do all the analysis, and then eventually, you're going to get the the full analysis from every single model, and then you can view from there. So there you go. You got OpenAI is kind of like loading up. Gemini will load, and then just have common sense. Like I said, don't invest in things that have more liabilities than assets. And then maybe if all those things check out, the news, the financials, the charts, all of that makes sense to you and your AIs, then, and you're liking the overall direction of the market, then maybe like margin could make sense. But if you're going into something, you don't have a process, it's not the move to use margin. So I would not encourage that. Sean says DJT. Yeah, I'm not going to cover that one because of the manipulation on the stock. There's a lot of manipulation on that stock, so I'm not going to cover it right now, but we can go into it another time. Carlos, thoughts on Supermicro Computer? I'm bullish personally. Supermicro Computer, they are one of the main companies that is providing the racking systems for the XAI Colossus, which is Elon's world record breaking data center. And Supermicro Computer is providing all of the racking systems to hold all of the GPUs. And they're recently pulled down. You can see they're pulled down here. They got a support level. Guess last time we analyzed them, we were actually looking for a potential recovery from this $30 price point. They're holding at $30. They got to support their risk seems low. RSI, MACD, you could see are oversold on the 200-day. If you go to the shorter time frame on Supermicro Computer, they do have that slight downtrend, but they are kind of breaking out of it. Okay, so you got that downtrend happening here. From here, selling down, selling down, selling down, selling down, selling down, selling down. And then you can see that they're kind of breaking out. So they were very consistently selling down through December, lower lows, lower highs, every market open, kind of selling down, false recovery, selling down more, and holding below that EMA. They just pushed out and broke out, and now they're looking to break back above that 200-day moving average. So I would watch on Supermicro Computer this previous support level that they had back in November, that they continue to hold above that level around $30 a share. Okay, so previous resistance oftentimes will act as a support, and previous support will oftentimes act as resistance. So you want to see them break above that previous support that they had to push up and then validate that $31. They continue to hold above 31, then again, I think next target, you're looking somewhere up into that $40 range. To me, this makes a lot of sense. Something like this, up into this previous support over here in the bigger term, longer term trend, and that would be around a $40 price point. Kind of see that level there. Whoa, there you are. And that would be a 30% increase. So you'd want to probably manage risk around $20 to $30 a share, super microcomputer, or hold it long term. I think I have a little bit of exposure long term for the company, but I think it's a very great formula. You know, one of the top companies that we gained on this year, you can see it, the proof is on the right, literally, 111% gain on AMD stock this year. All right, I also traded AMDL. That was a 65% gain this year. How did we make a 111% gain? Well, I have this secret formula that I only share with my rich friends. No, I'm just kidding. Literally, it was all right in front of everybody, and nobody talked about it. And I made videos about it, and nobody made any. I'm not doing like the "I told you so." That's not what I'm doing here. But I will say that, like, if you search AMD stock, Starlink was starting to get a lot of traction, and I had some videos come out that said that Starlink was partnering with AMD, and that AMD also doubled their data center production ahead of the AI boom, and that was towards mid 2024, and that they would see those gains show up late 2024 and into 2025. And they did. And so AMD saw those gains show up, and then they ended up surging from $75, and I called them the advanced money duplicator, even though everybody called them the advanced money destroyer. They surged up to $250 or what have you, $242, and they killed it. And it was right in front of us. It happened with T-Mobile as well when they signed with Starlink. It was right in front of us. And I'm saying right now, I believe Supermicrocomputer, it's right in front of us. They signed a deal with xAI's Colossus, Elon's massive data center. It's right in front of us. I believe that's going to be a massive revenue driver, and it's going to be a huge growth catalyst for them. And again, it's a long-term time frame. It might take 2 quarters for something for that to materialize, or it's going to bounce just like this overall uptrend here that we might see, and build the market cap back up into these levels around that $40 to $50 to $70 range. In that case, you're looking at 100% potential increase. It's, again, there's risk involved. It takes patience on those types of long-term trades, but when they happen, man, do they happen quick. I mean, look at last time Supermicrocomputer jumped from $25 a share to 65. It happened in like a few days. Look, boom, boom, just like that. And so, they've sold down here. They've been beat down pretty good, and I like to see it. I think there's some catalysts there. So that's why we'll continue to hold some of that. We do have some exposure. We do have some exposure to Supermicrocomputer over in the Schwab portfolio, but we might actually trade short term. Sometimes we trade even SMCX, I believe it is, the 2X of Supermicrocomputer, which we may trade. And we look for those opportunities at market open as well. I love it. Yeah, similar boat to NVIDIA. NVIDIA has also had growth. NVIDIA, they continue to grow in revenue, and shorter term, they do look slightly pulling back, but they got a support level around 170. And the long term, I mean, if you're looking at anything over the next 18 months, you're probably looking at a growth of over 10%, well over 10%, I would anticipate for NVIDIA. It's funny, in this AI market, it's not like you're anticipating between, can we get, 3% or can I get the 8% from the market? No, right now in the AI market, in the landscapes that we're in, with the technology that's being developed in this golden age that we're in, it's, am I going to get this, 12% return, or am I going to get this, 50 or 100 or 200% return? And then, like, you have to be able to now have the discipline to not get shook when things don't go according, or when things do sell down, but also have the ability to smooth out, get into multiple things. Nvidia is a growth engine that would be worth looking at, and any long-term investor or even short-term trader could be better off by focusing on the growth engines that just by probability have more green days than red days. That's it. And that's why, it can make sense to focus on them. But yeah, I mean, they're king. If you go to any, I don't want to talk about conferences too much again, but if you go to any conferences, you'll see Nvidia has like a piece of the pie of almost every company that's in the AI robotic space. They're already getting ready for the robotics and the human integration of AI. So yeah, they're in the quantum market. Yeah, long-term Nvidia looks quite good. Short-term, the trades, again, they got a support level at 165. We didn't trade them in the last few weeks, but we have traded them quite a bit. And you can see that support level around 175. If they do hold and continue bounce up here, if we do trade them, we'd probably trade the 2x. If they made this 10% gain back up into these previous high levels around 195, $200 a share, that would be 12% here on Nvidia, or 20% over on NVDX if we decided to trade over there. Steve, what's going on, Steve? How are you doing today? And Lee, thanks for tuning in. Hosdado, bullish on BITF. Yeah, the conversion from Bitcoin into the AI market. I love it. Awesome, guys. Hey, well, I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Thanks so much for tuning in. And when it comes down to Rocket Lab there, Steve, we already went over Rocket Lab earlier in the video. They signed a huge deal, and they continue to, they're only 1/10 of SpaceX market cap, but they could be even higher. I think they're looking good. Got a friend that works over there at Rocket Lab, and he's got some bullish sentiment in some of the texts we text often. And when it comes down to these opportunities, it's very dynamic, but it's early in the morning. If you want to be there at market open, we're there Monday through Friday. We'll be there live tomorrow morning, as we are there Monday through Friday every day at market open. It's the second link in the description down below to join in on StockMate. When you get StockMate, you get the free t-shirt, you get some of the good insights. And then don't forget, if you're really trying to get access into some of the top AI technologies, consider if your portfolio is less than a couple $1,000s, it might not make sense for you to use our AI tool. But if you're over like a couple $1,000s to $5,000 to $10,000 in your portfolio, and you're looking to maximize returns, I would say it makes sense, and I would recommend that you use the Prophecy AI tool. So if that's you want to get your hands on that, again, I would encourage you to have a look there as well. Just simply have a look. So appreciate you all. Thanks so much for tuning in again. All right. Love you guys. Peace. Have a good one. Everybody have a great Sunday. Happy holidays. Good stuff. I'll see you in the next one. All right. Take care, guys.